Alright, so before I do my video, I just want to post a quick little follow-up to my Guardians of the Galaxy review. I was a little bit too harsh on the film the first time I saw it. I went to go see it again, and I like it a lot more. It's a really good film. The villain, he's not what I expected, but I looked at the comics a little bit, and they actually kind of butchered his character. In the comics, he's more of like a Judge Dredd character for that world, and the reason why he clashes with the Guardians is because he'll kill people if he thinks they deserve it, and therefore the Guardians don't want him to do that. But other than that, like, yeah, it was a good movie. A lot of the characters were different from the comics, but that's not really what bothered me. The fact that I thought Thanos was going to be the main villain, but it turned out to be this other guy that wasn't overly cool, and there was a lot shoved into the movie, but it looking back at it again, it functioned. And just the fact that all the shit it set up for the Marvel world was overwhelming. But on to the actual movie I'm looking at today. The movie I'm looking at today is Lucy. All I can say is, wow, that's a fucking thing I saw. If you've seen the trailers, it stars Scarlett Johansson. She plays this girl who gets these drugs put inside of her. They break open and they start making her super smart. She can access all these different parts of her brain. Like, she eventually gets up to 100% brain capacity. And fuck, this movie is really insane. This is like the director. He's French. I think his name's Luc Besson or something like that. I think I've seen his movies. I just can't come to them at the top of my head. But basically, this feels like his attempt to make one of those really fancy pants, smart sounding movies. Like how everyone thinks The Purge. It's a stupid idea, but it's like a philosophical question. Like, oh, what if crime was legal for one day? Or Looper. How Looper's a philosophical movie. This is basically his attempt at doing one of those, but when you do that, you sound really stupid, like this. It's basically Tree of Life if it didn't suck, is kind of his style of this movie. And wow, is it insane. So Scarlett Johansson's in it, Morgan Freeman's in it. There's some other characters, very few, but I don't know who they're played by. They're mostly played by foreign actors, and I don't really know any of their names. And since this is an ad-lib review, I'm not going to be doing research beforehand. But people are giving this movie a lot of flack. Like, it's very divided on what the deal with this movie is. Some people are saying it's really stupid and makes no sense, and other people are like, oh my god, it's so awesome. I'm one of the people in the camps that says it's awesome, because I really don't know how seriously you're supposed to take this concept. Like, I think it is meant to be a little bit cheesy and stupid, and it succeeds in doing that. It feels like it's an action movie with just enough brain power. You have to use just enough brain power to be alive, basically. It's not Transformers stupid, but it's almost there. The people who think it's a bad movie, I think, need to get over their shit, because if you saw the trailers for this movie even, you kind of knew it was going to be a dumb action film. Like, the trailer sort of makes it look like she's going to the people who put the drugs in her and going to get revenge on them. But that isn't really what the movie's about, and I kind of wish it was a little bit more focused on that. But that's not what the movie's focused on at all. The first half is finding out who Lucy is, how she got the drugs into her, then her learning about some of her powers, and then she knows about her powers, she has them, she is able to use them as they come along. And then the last half is her trying to get in touch with Morgan Freeman's character, meet up with him, and basically fulfill her, I don't want to say destiny, but her life cycle. Because after she ingests the drugs, basically she either has to pass on her knowledge, reproduce, stuff like that. And basically that's what the last little bit of this movie is. I think they actually should have made this 2 hours and cut out the B storyline, which is her and this other guy sort of going after the drug cartel, Yakuza, whatever they really were. I think it would have just been better to cut that story out, have her fucking wipe them out, because she has the fucking power to do that. The fight scenes actually show her, she's like using telekinesis to like, like just throw them all over the place without even trying. That is how I think this movie would have been a lot better. Not that it's not a good movie to start with. It's probably one of the better action films I've seen. When I was watching it, I kept on thinking, this is Limitless if it didn't fucking have the drug allegory in it. Because I thought Limitless had some cool ideas, some cool thoughts, but halfway through, Limitless kind of became like this allegory for like addictions and drugs, and it failed so badly when compared to the book, because the book, he's suffering permanent effects from the drugs and still kind of fucked up, whereas the movie, I mean, it's like, yeah, he has all he could ever need now, and he's doing fucking awesome. So there was that, but this, basically, there was no drug allegory. It was her learning how to use more of her brain. She eventually did get to 100%, and all the cool powers she gets by using it. And there's like a gunfight and whatnot. This is the first movie I've ever seen where there's a gun battle, and I'm like, can we get back to the character who's like the main character who doesn't really do any gun battle fighting? It was, I don't know, this is a really difficult movie to explain. There's like time travel in it, there's dinosaurs, there's like old-timey Native Americans, there's cave people. All I can say is if you want a batshit crazy summer action movie, I would check out Lucy. If you're not, I really don't know. You definitely wouldn't like this. I don't know what kind of movie you're looking for in the summer besides a batshit crazy action movie. Maybe go see Guardians, because that would probably be more your speed. It's an action movie, but it's more character development, it's more comedy than this is. There's a few funny parts in this, because the more powerful Lucy gets, the more she starts to lose her humanity, and like how just cold and calculating she is in this film. Like when she first gets her powers, she escapes, she goes to a cabbie, she's like, oh, do you speak English? He's like, no, shoots him, looks at the guy next to him, is like, do you speak English and you drive this cab? Yes. And like, she's just so cold and calculating in this movie, and Scarlett Johansson pulls it off. I'm interested in seeing another movie with her in it called Under the Skin, where she plays an alien or something. I don't know if it's like Species or Peaceful Aliens or what the deal is, but I'm thinking of checking that out because I heard she was really good in that. But check this movie out if you want a mindless action film that's kind of smart. I want them to do more movies like this that involve accessing more of your brain, because it's a cool fantasy sci-fi idea that when applied in real life doesn't work. I read this article once that there's a reason why we can't use 100% of our brains, because it would basically be like movies, music, reading, someone talking to you from all different directions. There's a reason why we only use a certain percent of our brain. It's because if not, it would be overload, there'd be too much noise, and you'd be unable to concentrate. But this movie makes it look fucking awesome. It looks like you can compartmentalize each thing, and you eventually get like fucking telekinesis and time travel powers. But yeah, check it out. It's a kind of a funny, dark humor action movie, and it's really good. I'm gonna be right back, and I'll be talking about Sharknado, the second one. Alright, so I'm just gonna do a quick rundown of Sharknado 2, my thoughts of it. I've never seen the first one, but I'm in on the joke of the Sharknado movie and the rest of the CGI exploitation movies like Mega Piranha, Super Shark versus Crocosaurus or whatever. I'm in on the joke that yes, they're intentionally bad. You're supposed to watch them because they're bad. There's an element of humor to the fact that it's this bad, and not the ironic horror movie, bad it's good type of thing. Kind of like what they were doing with Scream. Like the characters were aware it was a horror movie, and they were cheeky with it. And some people don't like that type. I don't mind it, and I don't mind the schlocky Sharknado either. But since I've never seen the first one, I don't really have a base of how crazy the first one was compared to the second one. But the second one basically takes place in New York instead of California or whatever, wherever the first one took place. And it starts off with Tara Reid and Ian Ziering, or whatever his name is. They're on a plane flying into New York when a shark storm, not a Sharknado, just a shark storm, attacks the plane, and they have to make an emergency landing. During this part, sharks attack the plane, some people get killed. One of the people who gets killed is a cameo by Will Wheaton, which is a thing this movie does. I'm going to get to it later. But anyway, the plane gets attacked. Tara Reid gets her hand bitten off by one of the sharks. And her husband lands the plane. Everyone's fine, except for the people who died and whatnot. But the gist of this movie is him trying to stop the Sharknado again. But before that happens, he has to get his sister and her husband and her kids to a safe place. That is my main complaint with this movie, is I don't really care for the story that much. I think what they should do is embrace the insanity of this a little bit more. Like, I think the next one should be like a whole bunch of like really cool and funny action cliches, along with like the main two in this one, going and taking on another Sharknado or something like that. I think that would be really cool, because I find this movie drags for a lot of scenes. Like, there's very few parts of them actually fighting the sharks. There's a subway scene where the water's like flooding the subway and the sharks are chasing them. A building gets flooded and the sharks are in the building, are coming in through the rising water. And then there's more sharks coming in from the roof that are on fire because they blew up one of the Sharknadoes with a bomb. And so it's raining fucking flaming sharks, and they're into the building. But besides those three scenes, there's not a lot. A lot of it is, I'm not going to say crappy character development, because like I said, this movie's trying to be bad with its character development. His best friend, his old best friend, who was the person who married his sister, he's really like passive aggressive with him during the entire film. Like, yeah, there's sharks coming down. What should we do? He offers like, oh, we should do this, this, and this. It'll keep us safe. It's like, yeah, whatever. You're the fucking shark expert. You know all this stuff. But it's the parts that were good about the film. It's really cheesy. Some of the humor works. Like, a lot of the random cameos are kind of funny. There's one of the Osbournes, Kelly or Sharon. The sports guy from Shark Tank, he appears briefly, only to get crushed by the Statue of Liberty's severed head. Like I said, Will Wheaton appears just to be killed off. Regis from Regis and Kelly, or not Regis, but someone from the new Regis and Kelly show. Al Roker, I think his name is. But there's a lot of weird cameos, and sometimes the jokes work, and sometimes they don't. But it's interesting, like all the cameos they throw. I don't know if the first one had all these random cameos, but they're interesting. There's another cameo. He was played by the guy, the father of the main character in A Simple Man. He's in it, and he plays like this ex-baseball pro who on his last night like fucked up a game, so he kind of left dishonored. But he has one scene. It doesn't show if he dies or not, which is kind of cool, because I'm hoping he'll come back again. He always wanted to get a home run on his last game, so sharks are coming raining in on the stadium, and he takes his baseball bat and he just home runs a fucking shark into like the back of the stadium, which was funny. But I don't know. It's good. If you like the first one, I think you'll like this. Vivica A. Fox is in it, as well as like Zierig's old crush girlfriend from like when they were kids or something. But I don't know. Oh, another good cameo is one of the guys from the old show Taxi. I can't remember his name. He plays a taxi driver, and it's his lines of dialogue are interesting. He plays the stereotypical mad cabbie. Andy Dick plays a skeptical police officer, and that's the other part of this movie that bothers me. I know it's a horror movie. I know they have to hit certain notes, but throughout this movie, they keep on referring to what's happening in Manhattan as a shark storm. They're not shocked by any of this happening. Like, Sharknadoes and shark weather things are common in this world, so I don't know why they were so skeptical. One, when Ian Ziering said they're not prepared for this, they need to do something. And two, why they didn't do something. Like, when there's a hurricane that happens in real life, you don't just fucking not do anything. There's preparations made. There's precautions that people take. In a world where fucking sharks get sucked up in tornadoes and start doing shit, there should be precautions taken. But I don't know. That was just a weird little thing with me, because I can look past a lot of this like schlocky, stupid shit. Like, I can look past the fact that Tara Reid lost her hand in the film, and she attached like a buzzsaw to it, like Planet Terror, like super weaponing her amputated body part. But I don't know, there's a difference between schlock stupidity and just things that you could still hit on and still make the movie entertaining in other ways. Like, if they'd taken those precautions, but oh my god, they weren't enough, that would have been a better obvious plot point to take rather than what they did. But there's better ways to kill an hour and a half, in all honesty. If you aren't interested and never heard of Sharknado, chances are you probably are not going to like this, in all honesty. But if you've seen the first one, watch the second one, because it is just as good from what I've heard. Some people say it's not as outrageous, other people say it's just as good. I've never seen the first one, but the second one's a good enough movie. Like, there's enough weird, like, what the fuck moments that I think it's hilarious. Like, the final battle, or whatever you want to call it, where they use lightning rods to blow up these tanks filled with, like, some kind of cold liquid that will freeze the tornado from the inside. Ian Ziering, Vivica Fox go to do it. They both get shot up into the Sharknado and they're like flying around and killing sharks and shit like that. That was insane enough that I was like, okay, yeah, this is fucking happening. Like, I guess Ian Ziering is bred from the same gene pool as Chiv Chelios from Crank or something. Okay. Like, just the absurdity of it is good. I just wish that movie was mostly all that. Like, I think that would have made this film better, because that was more what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting there'd be like these really highs and lows to it. But yeah, if you have an hour and a half to waste, check it out. It's totally worth your time if you like these CGI exploitations. See you tomorrow with episode 3, season 1 of The Strain.